right, we're at the courthouse now at Temple and Broadway, and this is where the trials actually happen. And he was held here in the courthouse?
Yes.
Before he was tried, and then held during his trial?
Yes, this is exactly where it was. On the very top floor is where they kept all the cells. And all the stuff that you see here, all the antics and everything that went on in the courtroom, this is where it was. Where he lunged at the judge, you know, where he shaved his head, where he carved the X in his head. This is where it all began. This is where all those stories that you hear about the courthouse, this is where it happened.
Charles Manson was tried for murder, but also conspiracy for murder. And that was kind of a relatively unknown way to go about prosecuting at that point. People wonder about, well, how could Charles Manson be tried for all those counts of murder when he wasn't actually in the home? He didn't actually stab Sharon Tate and the others. And that's because in the conspiracy law, when you set in motion the crime for murder, you don't actually have to be there to wield the weapons to be tried for murder. So you have to really understand that in the legal system to understand what Vincent Bugliosi was going for, and actually got those murder convictions for Charles Manson. So we've seen the courthouse here where all the trials took place. Let's take a walk up the block. We were talking about where the girls in the family stood vigil. This is the exact corner where the followers and the family of Charlie Manson stood vigil over all those weeks during the trials of Charlie Manson and some of the others to really attract the media in support of Charles Manson and to send him the good energy that they were down here, they were supporting him.
You have Charlie on the top floor. They could feel his energy, so they say, and they stood right here, and at the time, they were attracting a lot of attention. They were using that as a tool.
They had to, per Charles Manson, crawl to this spot so that they could be sending that support up to him. It feels eerie to be here 49 years later after the trial. And it was here Charles Manson and the others were charged with and sentenced to death for those murders. And it was only after the California Supreme Court overturned those sentences as being unconstitutional that they were then allowed to try to get parole much later in the California system. Charles Manson may be dead, but the courthouse is still here 49 years later, and his legacy still remains.